Iti tasam swasaktinam satinam asamekyasa prasupta lokatantranam nisamya gatimishvaraha. Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies such as the Mahat Tattva. In the last chapter, after the Lord had created all the different elements, the demigods could not do anything. So they approached the Lord and said, please help us so that we can use it to start the creation. So that this is what Maitreya is saying. The Lord heard all the prayers so that they couldn't do anything. So the Prabhupada says there's nothing wanting in the creation of the Lord. All the potencies are there in a dormant state. But unless they are combined by the will of the Lord, nothing can progress. The suspended progressive work of creation can only be revived by the direction of the Lord. So without the Lord, creation cannot take place. Nothing can take place, basically. Okay. Text 2. Kala sanyam tada devim Vibhrachakti murukramaha Rayo vimshati tatpanam Dhanam yugapada. The Supreme Powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with the goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements. In the purport, Prabhupada says the ingredients of matter are counted as 23. The total material energy, false ego, sound, touch, form, taste, smell, earth, water, fire, air, sky, eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin, hand, leg, evacuating organ, genitals, speech, and mind. All are combined together by the influence of time. Time is the goddess Kali, who is representing time, and are again dissolved in the cause of time. Time, therefore, is the energy of the Lord and acts in her own way by the direction of the Lord. So, when she takes a form, it's known as Kali. And people worship her, dark, destructive goddess. And Prabhupada says those who are in the mode of ignorance, they worship her. And then a few lines down, Prabhupada says the energy which acts as material nature in a combination of 23 ingredients is not the final source of creation. The Lord enters into the elements and applies his energy called Kali. That's how this combination takes place. Basically, you have to know the Lord, he's entering into the Mahatattva now as Garbhadaksha with his time potency.
Yeah.
Text 3.
And then he comes as the
Paramatma in the
Combine elements.
It says Garbhadaksha. Yeah. First, we'll look at it because there's some conflict here and there. So let's not worry so much. One of the Vishnus went there, we can confirm that later. Text 3. Sonu pravishto bhagavan chesta rupena tanganam binnam samyojanam asa suptam karma prabodhayan. Thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. So as soon as the Lord comes inside, all the living entities who are there are aroused from their slumber, so to speak. And so they want to continue from their previous whatever karma they had. They merely want to continue. So they don't know how long they've been sleeping. Okay, it could be during a partial annihilation. It could be complete annihilation. If it's complete annihilation, it could be millions of years. Partial annihilation, only some kalpas like that. So that's the difference.
1,000 kalpas.
Yeah, 1,000 kalpas generally. So Prabhupada says the individual soul remains unconscious after the dissolution of the creation and thus enters into the Lord with his material energy. These individual living entities are conditioned souls everlastingly, but in each and every material creation, they are given a chance to liberate themselves and become free souls. It's the same idea. The whole creation is meant for liberation for the living entities. Now, a couple of lines down, Prabhupada says, after the dissolution of a particular body, the individual soul forgets everything. So it's a normal thing for the individual soul. Whenever there's some destruction or death, he forgets. He's put into a forgetful situation. But the Lord, who is the super soul, he knows everything. So when the next time is time for us to wake up, he will kickstart us. So following the next sentence, Prabhupada says the super soul awakens him and reminds him of his past desires. So therefore, sometimes you have a desire for something. It's from previous life. So we are continuing. Yeah? That's because that's what we want, and the Lord is merciful enough to allow us to remember that. Okay? So we don't die because as spirit soul, we are eternal. Okay? Our body can be destroyed. But as a soul, no. So according to time, when the whole universe is finished, everyone goes to Mahavishnu, that we will sleep there for millions of years. But if it's within the universe partial destruction, it depends on the kalpas, like that, until Brahma starts his creation, like that. So that's how it goes on. Huh? Text 4. Prabuddha karma daivena
Prabuddha karma dayena
trayo vimshatiko ganaha prerito janayad swabhir matra biradi purusham. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishwarupa body of the Lord came into existence. So this Virat Rupa, Vishwarupa is actually coming from the Garbhodakasha. So that's why I said it's Garbhodakasha.
But then Prabhu here it is clearly said. In the third translation, it said, thus when the personality of God had entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities.
Two things. There's also Kshirodakasha Vishnu also is expanding at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise the elements, atoms and everything cannot become alive. Yeah. The two things are happening. You can't see it as sequential.
Yeah.
So we are seeing from one angle, but the other side is also happening at the same time. Yeah. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the Virat Rupa or Vishwarupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, which is very much appreciated by the impersonalists, is not an eternal form of the Lord. So it's a temporary manifestation of the form of a Lord. I will explain later what it means. It is manifested by the supreme will of the Lord after the ingredients of material creation. Lord Krishna exhibited this Virat or Vishwarupa to Arjuna just to convince the impersonalists that he is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna exhibited the Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is not therefore an eternal form of the Lord exhibited in the spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of the Lord. The Archa Vigraha, or the worshipable deity in the temple, is a similar manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes. But in spite of their material touch, such forms of the Lord as the Virat and Archa are all non-different from his eternal form as Lord Krishna. Achintya Bheda Bheda. Okay, that is the principle behind this. He can expand as a material thing, but that material thing may be temporary. But still, because he expanded to show a form, it is considered to be his form. Like that. Text 5. Parena Vishata Swasmin
Parena Shashvata Swasmin
Matraya Vishwa Shriganaha
Matraya Vishwasriganaha
Chukshobanyonyam Asadya
Chukshobanyonyam Asarya
Yasmin Lokas Characharaha.
Yasmin Lokas Characharaha.
As the Lord in his plenary portion entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. So he's now entering into the what?
Into the universes.
Yeah, so as who?
Garbhadaksha.
Yes. So that's why I say there's two things happening.
So we've heard that first he enters into the Mahatattva, Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and carries the souls
Yeah.
into his body, and then he enters into each individual universes.
He's going.
This is Mark. This is universal form is
Hmm?
entering the.
No, as the Lord in his plenary portion. That's why I say it's not sequential or like that. You have to know. I mean, we can't know because of how different sections are mentioned in different Puranas sometimes. The sequence starts 1, 2, 3, somewhere 4, 5, then comes next 6. Because they are each individual who is relating, only relating what he has heard. And they are not wrong, it's just that the process can be more detailed. So those details are found in some other places like that. And like personalities like Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Jiva Goswami, they give us more insight, and then we understand when we combine everything. I mean, we need all that, otherwise we can't understand.
Even
It's
in the
true.
Brahma,
Huh?
even in the Brahma Samhita, it was not sequential.
No, even in the Brahma Samhita, it's not sequential. The same thing here also. Sometimes Maitreya Rishi will say two things that happen in different times. He will say at the same time. So then we get confused unless you know the whole. That's why I say it's so vast. They can understand, but for us we need guidance. All right. So Prabhupada says, all matter have no. The elements of cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in his plenary portion. So the same with all these golden universes. They cannot grow until the Lord is inside. Just like our body also cannot grow if we don't have the
So
spirit soul in there. Yeah. It's the same way. So unless it's spiritually touched, matter cannot move either way. Cannot grow or cannot be cannot decrease on its own. It doesn't work. In the next line, Prabhupada says, as long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed. But without the spirit, matter stops increasing. Okay.
One scientist also came to this conclusion.
What did they say?
But he said that without consciousness, nothing can happen in the material world.
Which scientist?
So I don't remember, but I read this article on New York Times.
Oh.
Get it away
In
from
general, they don't agree with them. A lot of them are atheists, so they don't want that something is controlling us. They want to say that we know exactly. It's arrogance, actually, false ego. But we can see from here, it makes so much sense how these things are doing. So remember the Virat Rupa? The Virat Rupa appears from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Yes. And it is an aspect of Shirodakashaya Vishnu. Okay? What it means is the subtle body of the super soul is the universal form. It's like a subtle body. And the gross manifestation of that universal form is our universe. Yes. So that's how it is. So basically the Vishwarupa form inside the universe is a blueprint. Okay, blueprint for the universe. So then Brahma knows how to develop all the planetary systems and put different living entities in different places. That's how it is manifested. So the subtle material form by which the Lord pervades the universe while displaying everything in the universe is called the universal form. Okay, that is the subtle aspect. So that's how the Lord pervades everything in his expansions in different ways. So that's how it's explained. Yeah, it's interesting. So the subtle body of the super soul is the universal form, so-called subtle body. Okay. Text 6. Hiranmaya sa purusha
Hiranmaya sa purusha
sahasra parivatsaran
sahasra parivatsaran
andakosha uvasapsu
andakosha uvasapsu
sarvasatvo pabrimhitaha.
sarvasatvo pabrimhitaha.
The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. This Hiranmaya is Garbhodakasha Vishnu. So he entered into each universe, the universe grew, and then he lay down there inside. And then when he wanted to lay down there, the place was so hot, because it's all completely covered. It was so hot he started to perspire. So his perspiration filled half the universe with water, Garbhodaka. Then he lay and took rest. So then it takes about 1,000 years before
Lord Brahma comes.
for even the thing to fill up. Yeah. Before the manifestation takes place, and after the entrance of the Vishnu within the there's a period of 1,000 years before Brahma is manifested. Okay. So from the Mahatattva, remember when the glancing, so all the living entities are there. So they are actually now brought into each universe by the Garbhodakasha Vishnu from the Mahatattva. Remember he entered into the Mahatattva, and from there he comes in. They wait for, the Lord also is in Yoga Nidra. Also, this is also another Yoga Nidra. Until the desire of the living entities starts pushing his stomach, and that's when his navel starts pushing up. And then he smiles, and then he lets the lotus sprout. Yeah.
The body is considered the total karma of all the living.
Yeah, that's in the Brahma Samhita. Their total desire or karma is manifested by the lotus. Okay. Sometimes Brahma is born in the lotus, sometimes he is born from the element earth, water, fire, or air. Okay. Depending on our Brahma was born in the lotus. Yeah. It's interesting. It's all in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. If you read, it's just so much information our acharyas have given. Okay, text 7. Savai Vishwa Srijam Garbho
Savai Vishwasrijam Garbho
Deva Karmatma Shaktiman
Deva Karmatma Shaktiman
Vibhava Jatmanatmanam
Vibhava Jatmanatmanam
Ekada Dashada Trida.
Ekada Dashada Trida.
The total energy of the Mahat Tattva in the form of the gigantic Virat Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity, and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively. Basically, all the living entities are in the Mahatattva. So it's like for all the consciousnesses. So when he divided himself, means he is going into different.
Elements and entity, living.
Each living entity has his own
Kira
one.
Daksha
So
is
yeah,
explained
so
as
he's going into each universes, different living entities, into the consciousness of the living entities.
Is it the Paramatma? Is it the Paramatma?
What?
Is into every living being now.
Consciousness of the living entity also. Okay. So then Prabhupada explains the consciousness sign of the living entity of the soul. The existence of soul is manifest in the form of consciousness called Jnana Shakti. The total consciousness is that of the gigantic Virat Rupa, and the same consciousness is exhibited in individual persons. Okay? Yeah. And these activities are performed by one of them, right? Is performed through in each individual by the life air. So each life air is divided into 10. So the 1 is the heart, the 10 is the life air, and then the 3 is the consciousness. All right, the 3 consciousness is described in the second paragraph. Prabhupada explains the individual consciousness, he puts in bracket, Arjuna, is advised to dovetail with the Supreme Consciousness and thus maintain his conscious purity. It is foolish to try to stop the activities of the consciousness, but they can be purified when they are dovetailed with the Supreme. This consciousness is divided into 3 modes of self-identification according to the proportion of purity. Adhyatmika, or self-identification with the body and mind, Adi Bhautika, or self-identification with the material products, and Adi Daivika, or self-identification as a servant of the Lord. Of the 3, Adi Daivika self-identification is the beginning of purity of consciousness in pursuance of the desire of the Lord. So this is a different take on the Adi Bhautika Adi. So it's on a different level. Okay.
About kleshas and this.
Yeah, that is kleshas. This is consciousness. That's right. Okay? It's quite straightforward, right? Yeah. Let's go. Text 8. Esha hi ashesha sattvanam
Esha hi ashesha sattvanam
atman cha paramatmanah
Atmansha Paramatmanah
adyovataro yatraso
Adyovataro Yatraso
bhutagramo vibhavyate.
Bhuttaramo Vibhavyate.
The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which thus flourishes. Okay. So the Supreme Lord, he expands himself 2 ways. One is plenary expansion, and the other one is separate minute expansion. The personal plenary expansion are Vishnu Tattvas, and the separate expansions are living entities. Okay. So understand, he is the, remember I said from Shirodakashaya Vishnu, this is the subtle thing. So that's what is described here. Plenary portion of the Super Soul. But it's just a subtle aspect. And that is subtle. And then the gross aspect is when it's made by Brahma and all the other jivas into the universe. Okay? Based on the blueprint.
So previously it
Well,
said,
blueprint is not prototype. Okay? What is the difference?
Blueprint is used to
Blueprint
build a
is the
prototype.
subtle-
is the final.
Yeah, blueprint is the
Yeah.
subtle impression he has in his mind.
No. Blueprint means what?
Blueprint.
Can
build
build
Final
that,
copy.
he can copy.
Yeah, that's it.
He has to build on
Prototype
it.
is different. Prototype is from there you can make different. That's why from prototype in each universe you can have a different type of Brahma also.
So this blueprint is specific to that universe. only.
Yes, because it's coming with the Garbhodakasha Vishnu.
So prototype
He
is
also carries
outside
in
the-
this.
Yeah.
Brahma also has
That's
that.
what comes from Mahavishnu.
Yes. Or from the Shaktis. Yeah, from Mahavishnu.
The previous verse it is said that subtle aspect is the universal form.
Yes.
So universal form is the prototype, and then the blueprint is the
No.
actual execution.
And nobody said it was a prototype. It's a blueprint.
Blueprint is the subtle form, and
Yes.
then the manifestation of the universe
It's
is the
based
gross,
on the.
The gross
Yes.
form.
is the gross form of the.
Yes, it's a
Yes.
gross form. Yes.
So Brahma has this whole thing in his mind.
Then
So
after,
impression.
because he also merges with the Virat Rupa. Brahma will also take in the Virat Rupa. Then he will, it's like empowerment like that. Then he will create the universe. It's very
It's like the program is fed into the machine.
yeah, you can say like that. Or he becomes empowered. He takes the Virat Rupa and then he becomes the Virat Rupa in that sense. And then he has the blueprint in him. All the coding, everything is there. Now he just churns out all the products. Yeah. Unlimited combinations. Text 9. Sadhyatma Sadidaivascha
Sadhyatma Sadidaivascha
Sadibhuta Iti Trida
Sadibhuta iti trida
Virat Prano Dashavida
Virat Prano Dashaya
Ekada Hridayena Cha.
Ekada Hridayena cha
The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1 in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses, which is 3. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life air, 10. And he is the one heart where the life energy is generated, 1. Okay, so that's how he's differentiated. And it's again the same thing. Prabhupada explains about the energies in the purports. And you can read that. I'm not going to go into that. Okay?
So here heart is heart of what?
The living entity.
Okay, our hearts. One heart, 3 consciousness, 10 life waves.
Each living entity has
As those.
not consciousness in this case. In this now, body, mind, and senses.
Body, mind,
Yeah.
senses.
In the big universal one is a consciousness. Yeah. Right? So it's like, in a sense, you can say it's like the big universal form was the prototype for the small individual. In one sense, but it's not. It's not prototype. It's like a design from there. But the 3 in here means the body, mind, and senses. Yeah. Okay, let's go to text 10. Smaran Vishwasvijamisho
Smaran Vishwasvijamisho
Vijnapitam Aduksajaha
Vijnapitam Adokshaya
Virajam Matapatsvena
Virajam Matatasvena
Tejasaisham Vivrittaye.
Tejasvesham Vivrittaye.
The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all demigods entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. So he gave them the blueprint. I was thinking how these guys are going to do, you know. Yeah, sometimes you also want to teach your people, new people, and then they don't know. You say, okay, just read the manual, follow the instruction. If you got any problem, you ask me, right? So the same way the Lord say, okay, you know. And so he manifested the form, the blueprint.
So this is blueprint.
And Prabhupada again talks about how impersonalists are immediately captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. And then they think that the control behind this gigantic manifestation is imagination. Intelligent persons, however, can estimate the value of the cause by observing the wonders of the effects. For example, the individual human body does not develop from the womb of the mother independently, but because a living entity, the soul, is within the womb. Without the living entity, a material body cannot automatically take shape or develop. When any material object displays development, it must be understood that there is a spiritual soul within the manifestation. The gigantic universe has developed gradually, just as the body of a child develops. The conception that the transcendence enters within the universe is therefore logical. As the materialist cannot find the soul and the supersoul within the heart, similarly, for want of sufficient knowledge, they cannot see that the Supreme Soul is the cause of the universe. The Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avan Manasa Gochara, beyond the conception of words and mind. So this is important. Prabhupada gives very nicely to make us understand how these people think, and logically he's saying how they can't accept this thing. And then he said another reason is because they don't want to accept him. Avan Manasa Gochara. So for us also we can't see, but we accept the authority. So because we accept the authorities, we can see the Lord in the scripture. We can see the Lord in the temple. Remember earlier on in the previous chapters, Prabhupada explains like that in the first 2 chapters. Yeah.
Probably in this translation, the demigods that have been referred to are the ones outside the universe.
Yeah, it appears that they are also expanding into all the universes also.
Also, they don't come from Brahma.
No,
They come like how Mahavishnu.
these are first set.
And also those who were praying to the Lord, I thought they were the
They-
ones personifying the earth, water, fire, and everything.
Yeah, they're the ones. They're still the same ones.
Not all the other.
Not yet. Brahma hasn't taken birth yet.
Prototype demigods.
We can say they're like that.
Prototype means outside.
Yeah, outside.
Outside the Mahatma.
And they are all expanding into different universes now. They're
Of
coming in with the Garbhodakasha Vishnu.
Of those
So this
representing those
is-
5 elements.
Yes,
This prayer is the previous prayer. References
Yeah.
the previous prayer.
yes. As far as I understand, that's what it is. Because the Lord is hearing the prayers, now He's acting on, and at the same time, so many events are taking place. I like the next paragraph also very much. I really think it's so nice. Prabhupada is so good. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, the mental speculators try to bring the Supreme within the purview of words and minds. But the Lord refuses to be so intelligible. The speculator has no adequate words or mind to gauge the infinity of the Lord. The Lord is called Adokshaja, or the person who is beyond perception by the blunt, limited potency of our senses. One cannot perceive the transcendent name or form of the Lord by mental speculation. The mundane PhDs are completely unable to speculate on the Supreme with their limited senses. Such attempts by the puffed up PhDs are compared to the philosophy of the frog in the well. A frog in a well was informed of the gigantic Pacific Ocean, and he began to puff himself up in order to understand or measure the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean. Ultimately, the frog burst and died. The title PhD can also be interpreted as plough department, a title meant for the tillers in the paddy field. The attempt of the tillers in the paddy field to understand the cosmic manifestation and the cause behind such wonderful work can be compared to the endeavor of the frog in the well to calculate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean. Really sarcastic. But he made the point clear. What's the value of your PhD?
PhD is also called permanent head damage.
Yeah, that also may be true. But we have many PhD devotees also. So unless we are engaged by a spiritual master, we cannot engage in transcendental loving service. Not possible. And if we have the opportunity to do service and we don't do that, then we are missing out. Okay, text 11.
Actually, the last lines will confirm that this is in the Mahatattva only. The demigods are praying in the Mahatattva. The demigods, controllers of the elements and ingredients of the universal affairs, pray to the Lord for guidance.
Yeah, the
They are
same
the
same demigods. Text 11. Atha tasya vitaptasya
Atha tasya vitastasya
katidayata naniha
katidaya nadiha
nirabityanta devanam
niravidyanta devanam
ani me gadatashinu.
tani me gadatashunu.
Maitreya said, "You may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into the diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic universal form." Okay, so he's going to now become the demigods within the universe. Yeah. Text 12. Tasyagnidasyam nirbinnam
Tasyagnirasyam nirmanam
lokapalo vishapadam
lokapalo vishaparam
vacha samsena vaktavyam
vacha samsena bhaktavya
yaya sa pratipadyate.
yayasau pratipadyate.
Agni or heat separated from his mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered into it in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. So this is the Virat Rupa form. So each demigod is going to take his position now. So Prabhupada writes, Mother Jagani universe form of the Lord is the source of speaking power. The director fire element is the controlling deity or the Adi Deva. Anyway, you can read the principles of each demigod. Text 13. Nirbinnam talu varuno
Nirvinnam talu varno
lokapalo vishaddare
lokapalo vishadhare
jiva yamshena charasam
jivayam shena charasam
yayasa pratipadyate.
yayasau pratipadyate.
When the palette of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of water in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus the living entity has the facility to taste everything with his tongue. Okay.
Air or water? Taste air here.
Varuna.
It's a print mistake. It's air here.
Where does it say? Eh?
In the books, it
Book
is-
is telling you.
it's a-
Mine says Varuna.
Wrong.
Anyway, it is Varuna in the Sanskrit, so it is Varuna. Yeah, you have the right, no?
Water.
So change.
So in the book we change it.
Well, yeah, say Hare Krishna and change. Yeah, you have to. It's Krishna, no? Arjuna Acharya. Text 14. Nirbinne Ashvinau Nase
Nirvinne Ashvinau Nase
Vishnura Vishatam Padam
Vishnura Vishtam Padam
Grane Mamshina Gandasya
Grahyanam Shena Gandasya
Pratipatir Yato Bhavet.
Pratipadyate yato bhavet.
And the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested themselves. The dual Aswini Kumaras entered them in their proper positions, and because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything.
So, I have a question here.
So, like all these verses are actually talking, telling that this plant actually manifested. But then, what was the form of the Lord actually before that?
It's a subtle form.
The gross is developing.
Yeah. And then now he's all this still it's in not like the gross still. It's coming down to another level. And finally when we get the body, the demigods are all in the body, our body. Whatever we have, it's a copy of the Virat Rupa form. It's a blueprint. Any animal, anything, everything is a copy of the Lord. Okay? So the demigods take different position for different faculties of the body and senses. Like that. So once they are established in that position, they are empowered to control any number of living entities.
But then Prabhu, like take an example of nostrils, 2 nostrils, right? But then there are so many living entities, so there should be those many number of nostrils, right?
Yeah, but these are in charge. Yeah,
So like for animals, it looks different.
maybe, but the point is they are in charge of those things. We want every single one. You want to say, okay, for the insect, this is what he did. No. Maitreya is explaining. It's very easy for them to understand. Animals don't have more than 2 nostrils also, generally. Yeah.
That's a sub-menu, so I should cover it.
Yeah. It's a subcategory defined within the nostril. Yeah.
But then it applies to the Virat Purusha, right? And then
How the Virat Purusha shows the subcategory, I don't know. But that's the main thing is there. And then Brahma, with this help, he can create the subcategories.
Delegated.
Yeah. The Lord doesn't have to. He just says, I'm giving you all these faculties. And then all the different types is under that. So Brahma then realizes how to use this knowledge to create the other living entities.
no, if it is the faculty, then it's I understand that. But here it says
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. It's written like that, but you are trying to use your logic to say this is how it should be. Yeah, that's not. Some things are not. You cannot use your logic straight like that.
Belly will burst.
You understand? You cannot try to encompass how the Lord is doing this creation into our feeble mind. It's not possible unless He allows you to understand.
Right
The
now,
person who can only know this is Brahma and some of the demigods.
Prabhupada is telling the
From
Lord
also just through Sabda only knows.
He knows only something.
Yeah.
That's about it.
He also he doesn't see the whole thing manifesting himself.
Hmm.
So Prabhupada is written in the previous purpose. God refuses to be intelligent.
He just heard from Krishna.
Huh?
Prabhupada, in that frog purport,
Yeah.
he said the Lord refuses to be so intelligible.
Yeah, you can try to figure him out like that. Anyway,
So many attributes.
it is
Achintya, Vibhu.
if those information is so important, Prabhupada would have written and explained, but it's not really. The main thing is the Lord's nostril develops so that smell can take place. How that smell takes place in the lower forms of life is Brahma's choice of giving them the faculties the way he is giving them. Yeah. So, according to your karma, some people are born without nose, right? Some people are born without certain eyes also, but doesn't mean the Virat Purusha doesn't have those things.
So this is the prototype for the universe.
Blueprint.
Prototype is outside.
His prototype is all done.
Prototype of the prototype. This is the prototype. Blueprint.
It's the main thing. From there they can adjust everything based on karma. We get what we deserve like that.
It's a
So
very weird-
no matter how much medicine one takes,
Yeah.
if the karma says that somebody has to have ear pain, they will have ear pain.
Yes.
I'm just amazed that the Lord can represent everything in this Virat.
Yeah, everything is represented in the Virat.
And we have a
All.
hard time drawing it.
Because it's inconceivable. It's on a different level. You need a higher intellect. We don't have. To some level, we can manage certain things, but certain things cannot be understood. Yeah. Like how moon is further away from the sun. All these things, certain way we can say, understand, okay, it's in a different dimension on a higher plane and lower plane. Like, or, still we don't know.
For him, it's just like this.
Yeah, the intellect that is required to understand this whole material creation is so. You have to be on the level of Brahma at least,
Brahma doesn't know fully.
and even Brahma doesn't know fully, but at least on that level.
So we draw pictures, but the pictures will only be somewhat correct.
At least to help us to conceive. Just like When the Lord says in the Purana, in the Puranas, it says 1/4 of his energy is sent to create them. How can the Lord say 1/4, right? For our understanding, it's 1/4 because he's unlimited,
Infinite.
1/4 of infinite is infinite.
infinite. So he used a great portion of his being to control us. That's what it is.
So one question I have when Maitreya Rishi is explaining to Vidura,
Yeah,
it's
Vidura
like
didn't ask
Vidura
this
doesn't have any
question.
questions.
Yeah, so-
That means he understood all.
We'll probably ask later.
no, they are, as I said, Vidura and all on a different level. They immediately they know this is the blueprint and this is what means. That means every living entity is going to have sense of smell, sense of sight, and all this will be there. How it is manifested in a physical body, it's up to the karma and how Brahma is going to give
And
them.
he wants to know more about the Lord directly. So
And
he will not ask.
exactly.
Vidura is started new ISKCON recruit.
Vidura is more interested in
He already
Krishna.
studied all the Puranas, everything. So.
I mean, in those days they know and they have a better intellect than us. We are very fallen. So. Text 15. Nirbinne akshini twasta lokapalo vishadvibhu
Lokapalo Vishadvibu
chakshusamshena rupanam
Chakshusamsena Rupanam
pratipatti yato bhavet.
Pratipayyato Bhavet.
Thereafter, the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord were separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered them with the partial representation of eyesight. And thus, the living entities can have vision of forms. You see, Prabhupada translates the vision of forms. So that it doesn't matter how many eyes the person has. The eyesight, that's the main thing. But anyway, that's a good question you asked. Now it made everyone understand even better. Text 16. Nirbhinnani asya charmani
Nirbhinnani asya charmani
lokapalo nilobhishat
Lokapalo Nilovisha
praninam sena samsparsham
Pranayamshena Samsparsham
yena sa pratipadyate.
Yena Sau Pratipadyate.
It's like the Jiva Atmas wanting to get out. Your phone.
They want to talk like
When there was a manifestation of skin separated from the gigantic form, Anila, the deity directing the wind, entered with partial touch, and thus the living entities can realize tactile knowledge. Everything scientific, no? Everyone there is one. Now you know why there's 33 million demigods, because that many faculties we need to function. Text 17. Karnavasya vinirbinnam
Karnavasya Nirvinnam
Dishnyam swam vivishu dishaha
Dishyam Swam Vishyodisha
Strotrenam shena shabdasya
Sotrenam Shena Shabdasya
Siddhim yena prapadyate.
Siddhimyena Prapadyate.
When the eyes of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling deities of the directions entered into them with the hearing principles, by which all the living entities hear and take advantage of sound. Of course, Prabhupada makes the important point saying that hearing is the most important. Through Shabda Brahman, right, we can understand the entire Vedic knowledge. Text 18. Tvacham asya vinirbinnam
Vachamasya Vinirvinnam
Vivishurdishnyam oshadai
Vivishodishyam Shashishri
Angshena Romadi Khandum
Amshena Rohikandum
Yarasau Pratipadyate.
Yajaso Pratipadyate.
When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. So that's also another deity for that. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the controlling deity of touch is the air passing within the body, and the controlling deity of the hairs on the body is Oshadhya. For the skin, the object of perception is touch, and for the hairs on the body, the object of perception is itching. Interesting.
So the controlling deity for touch is there, and even when we read about how the yesterday from false ego, other different things come. So air and touch is
Yeah. Text 19. Midhram tasya vinirbinnam
Vedamrasya nirvinam
swadhisnyam ka upavishat
Swadhishyam ka upavishat
Eta samshena yena sau
Vedasamshenayenasau
Anandam pratipadyate.
Anandam pratipadyate.
And the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest. Then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Text 20. Gudam pumso vinirbinnam
Vedamrasya nirvinam
mitro lokesha avishat
Mitro lokesha avishat
Vayunam shena yena sau
Vayunam shenayenasau
Vishargam pratipadyate.
Visargam pratipadyate.
The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs of evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Text 21. Hastavasya vinirbinnam
Hastavasya vinirbinnam
Indra swapatir avishat
Indra swapatirāvishat
Vartayanshena purusho
Vārtayanshena purusho
Yaya vrittim prapadyate.
Yaya vrittim prapadyate.
Thereafter, when the hands of the gigantic form separately became manifested, Indra, the ruler of the heavenly planets, entered into them, and thus the living entity is able to transact business for his livelihood. Text 22. Padavasya vinirbinnam
Pādavasya vinirbinnam
Lokesho Vishnuravishat
Lokesho Vishnurāvishat
Gatya Swansena Purusho
Gatya Swamsena Purusho
Yaya Prapyam Prapadyate.
Yaya Prapyam Prapadyate.
Thereafter, the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and the demigod named Vishnu, not the personality of Godhead, entered with partial movement. This helps the living entity move to his destination. Text 23. There's a demigod named Vishnu, just in case. Text 23. Buddhim chasya vinirbinnam
Buddhichasya vinirbinnam
Vagisho Dishnyam avishat
Vagisho Vishnyavishat
Bodhinanshena Bodhavyam
Bodhyanshena Bodhavyam
Pratipatir Yato Bhavet.
Pratipatir Yato Bhavet.
And the intelligence of the gigantic form separately became manifest. Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding, and thus an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities. Text 24. Hridayam chasya nirvinnam
Hridayachasya nirvinnam
Chandrama Dishnyam avishat
Chandrama Vishnamavishat
Manasam sena yena sau
Manasamsena yenasau
Vikriyam pratipadyate.
Vikriyam pratipadyate.
After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus, the living entity can conduct his mental speculations. So, the heart and the moon are connected. Text 25. So, treat yourself kindly, otherwise, your heart will be hurt and you go mental.
Lunatics.
Text 25. Atmanam chasya nirvinnam
Atmanam chasya nirvinnam
Abhimano vishatpadam
Abhimano vishatpadam
Karmanam shena yena sau
Karmanam shena yenasau
Kartavyam pratipadyate.
Kartavyam pratipadyate.
Similar to 24.
Thereafter, what happened?
Similar to 24. Like,
Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial activities by which the living entity transacts his objective actions. Prabhupada writes, a false ego materialistic identity is controlled by the demigod Rudra, an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Now, this incarnation of Lord Shiva could be Lord Sadashiva or Lord Shiva, I'm not sure. Okay? Yeah. So I don't know. We have to investigate on this.
Shiva Shiva is
Isn't spiritual, but
Yeah, so I
Shambhu
said I do not know which demigod he is. He from even Shambhu is a expansion of Sadashiva. So I don't know which Shiva Rudra is. So, huh?
It's from some.
It's from Shambhu. You sure? Rudra. Huh?
I just made a class on that.
Well, I don't know. So I'm saying.
Yeah, it's from Gokul.
Yeah, they still don't know. That's
Yeah,
why I
11
don't have to say anything.
11 Rudras come from him.
No, Maharaj also said we do not know which position which Shiva is taking. So
Yeah,
therefore I
he-
want to say.
Someone said that in that side.
So I don't want to commit
Yeah.
myself. Yeah, you can say that, but I'm not going to say. Rudra is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Here Prabhupada says is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, who controls the mode of ignorance within material nature. So this Rudra is appears to be, No, he's it's an expansion, no?
It's like saying
It says incarnation of the
the
Supreme
line.
Yeah.
The line.
Guna Avatar. It looks like a Guna Avatar.
Gunavatar is the first three that came in during the time of conglomeration.
Yeah, so but this is the incarnation who controls the mode of ignorance within material nature.
That is one of the Rudras of 11 Rudras, which are coming from actually expansions.
No, I don't want to speculate.
So I will show you that.
Yeah, but I don't want to know also. I want to read from the Laghu Bhagavad Gita or somewhere it says how the Rudras go. Yeah. Because problem is different devotees understand it differently and then they are depicting differently. That's
This is from the Prabhu who has done this.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. He has his understanding, and then another Maharaj has his
So
understanding,
Maharaj and they are in the same page actually.
and then another Maharaj has his own version. So I don't want to say this is the Rudra. All I'm saying is I do not know which Rudra. In this case, I'm not convinced yet.
so which version should be learned from?
Huh?
Which version should be learned from?
Oh, what is happening now is they are all working together, right?
Maharaj and
Yeah,
Prabhu is-
Maharaj, and then who's the other Maharaj?
Prabhu is Dhanavir Maharaj.
Dhanavir Maharaj and Prabhu Golok Chandra, and then Gokul Chandra, and then now,
Somebody else from there. It's a big team. Bhakti Vidyabodh Maharaj also.
yeah,
That's a
and
big team.
then the other group also. I know there are a couple of groups. That's why I don't want to say which one is final. So whatever you learn is nothing wrong. It's just that whether these are all the same person or different, or is it Rudra at the same time or Rudra at the end of incarnation? We do not know because the Rudras are 11 and 5. So the 11 is for the destruction and 5 is for.
So the 11s are this, one is in the Atala, then one is in the.
No, you didn't answer my question. There's 11 and 5. It describes.
This is 11s are used for the destruction.
Okay, and then the 5.
5 are of different purposes.
Yeah, so we don't know from where they are appointed in what level. That's why I don't understand.
For Bhakti level exam, to what level of detail we are supposed to know?
Nobody's going to ask you about
Okay.
Whatever it is.
it. Only
We
he
don't
will know most of it
all those
from what he
questions,
has understood.
special question paper.
But
from
we won't ask you all this.
Maitreya.
Maitri.
This is the information which is given by them. I'm just repeating.
Yeah.
So
All this-
I am not creating anything.
No,
All
I'm
these
saying
different
only you will
versions-
know if the question comes out.
All these different versions are supposed to assist so that you can understand Prabhupada's.
Yeah, exactly. So they have collected, like yesterday I was talking about the snake. Right?
Yeah.
There was a size, that's why I gave you the.
That one, yeah, some things I've heard correctly, I can say. But what I haven't heard from all the different sources, if they don't make sense to
So
me.
this, my source is Gokul Chandra Prabhu.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
my
okay.
source. I don't
Prabhu-
get it.
Haridas Prabhu makes one mistake in this regard because we know Prabhupada is a pure devotee. His words are perfect. There's so many devotees writing books. It's nothing wrong with it, but you have to always understand whether it collaborates with Prabhupada. If it's not,
It's true, but there are also editorial mistakes like
Yes.
we found earlier
Yeah,
where
they could-
There is.
they-
That's why I need to have
What
three,
is-
three,
Yeah.
two, three references. Not one reference is not good.
Printing mistake, editorial mistake, plus expansion. Remember, we were reading in the purport it says Vaibhav Vilas, but actually we checked the Laghu Bhavatam, it's not. So there are
There are contradictions.
contradictions. That's why I say let them GBC say this is it, and I'm happy. It's true.
Yes,
Most of the time they confer, and then you get from people like Burijan and all these people who Banuswami, all this from the Shastra community. What is it?
That's the Shastri Council.
Committee
Advising.
advising. They will say, and then we can just accept. So if we make mistake, it's everyone's making the same.
Same mistake, it's
Yeah.
going on.
Anyway,
But for so long, I thought that the universes are on the hood of.
exactly. That's fine.
But
That's
that
fine.
was on the picture. So
Yes.
now the information is different. So
Yeah, so then you change accordingly. Yeah. Because remember, I told you some information in the Bhagavatam is not all the information. The speaker is only speaking what he wants to, and the other person probably knows everything and they can fill the gaps. Whereas we can't, we don't have the information. So some you see number sequence 1, 2, 5 in the book, like because they don't want to talk about 3 and 4. They don't want to. So they know it or whatever they jump. Then 4 and 5 is in another Purana. Then 6 is in another Purana. Like that. So like Jiva Goswami, he can put everything nicely and explain. But we can't. So that's what's happening. Like Prabhu's got some nice information. But majority they're still working on, I believe.
I
The Shastra
I'm just taking their information.
Don't worry. You're
It's
doing a
not
good
my
job.
information.
No, I didn't say. I
Your
said
hard disk.
you're a hard disk.
Maitreya, just repeating.
Maitreya. Text 26. Sattvam chasya vinibhinnam mahandisnyam upavishad chittena yenasau vijnanam pratipadyate. Thereafter, when his consciousness separately manifested itself, the total energy Mahatattva entered with his conscious part. Thus, the living entity is able to conceive specific knowledge. Now, the Mahatattva here is a person also. Okay? He's also one demigod. So, each universe is covered by the Mahatattva also, separately. There's a personality living there also, and they worship Vasudeva. Vasudeva. Yeah. You know, remember we did
Different layers.
different layers they worship. Yeah, it's in. I think you have it. Also.
Yeah.
Text 27. Shishnosya dyurdarapadyavyam kamnabe udapadyata gunanam vritayo yeshu pratiyante suradayaha. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs, the earthly planets, and from his abdomen, the sky separately manifested themselves. Within them, the demigods and others also were manifested in terms of the modes of material nature.
So earth worship Lord Varaha.
Yeah, earth is Varaha.
Water is Lord
Matsya.
Third one is
Fire.
Mahatattva is Vasudeva.
Huh?
Mahatattva is Vasudeva.
Mahatattva is Vasudeva. False ego is Shankarshan.
Yeah.
Ether is Aniruddha.
Hmm.
Air is Pradyumna. And then I can't see it.
False
Mahanarayana.
ego is
You can see it.
Mahanarayana.
Yeah,
Sankarshana.
Sankarshana is false.
False ego is Sankarshana.
Yes, yellow layer.
Fire.
Yellow and fire.
Suryanarayana. Not Mahanarayana. Vishnu.
Surya Narayana is sun.
No, then that's
Controlling deity of the sun.
that is that's not the sun they worship in that. That is Vishnu.
Vishnu. Suryanarayana is Vishnu.
This Surya is a person. Surya Narayan is
He worships.
Surya worships Suryanarayana.
yeah. Yeah. Huh? What do you say?
The Gayatri Mantra.
Yeah.
So actually, when we mentioned that is actually refers to Surya Narayan.
Yeah.
Bhur,
Yes.
Bhuva, Swa.
So,
These three.
yeah, and it refers to prayers for Surya
All the
Narayana.
planets.
Well, it depends how advanced you are. You see different things.
Bhur, Bhuva, Swa.
Yeah. Text 28. Atyandikena satvena
Atyantikena satvena
divam deva prapedire
divam deva pradire
dharam raja swabhavena
dharam rajasasvabhavena
panayo ye cha tannanu.
panayo ye chasanjanu.
The demigods, qualified by the super excellent quality of the mode of goodness, are situated in the heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of their nature in the mode of passion, live on the earth in company with their subordinates. So now Maitreya Rishi is telling where the demigods will be and where the living entities, human beings will be, and where other personalities will go. Okay. Yeah, you can look through the purport later on. Text 29. Tartiyena swabhavena
Tatyena svabhavena
bhagavanadimastitaha
bhagavanam vasvishtaha
uvayorantaram vyoma
uvayorantaram vyoma
ye rudra parshadam gana.
ye rudra bhashadam.
Living entities who are associates of Rudra develop in the third mode of material nature or ignorance. They are situated in the sky between the earthly planets and the heavenly planets. And then in the purport, Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. This middle portion of the sky is called Bhuvarloka, as confirmed by both Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti and Srila Jiva Goswami. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that those who develop in the mode of passion are situated in the middle region. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness are promoted in the regions of demigods. Those who are situated in the mode of passion are placed in human society, and those who are situated in the mode of ignorance are placed in the society of animals or ghosts. There are no contradictions in this conclusion. Huh?
Prabhu said that when they are falling, demigods are falling from these ghosts, they eat their body.
I don't know.
He was telling.
It's possible in the Puranas.
Gokul Chakravarti. He was telling that they eat their body. They're falling down.
So the living entities in the subterranean planets, what is their mode of, in which mode they are? Earthly planets is mode of passion, heavenly is mode of goodness, and it's this
In the subterranean, some of them are passionate also, mainly passionate and ignorance. Yeah. They're more atheistic,
Extremely envious.
envious.
But there is more opulence there.
There is opulence also, but they are all materialists. Generally, they are materialistic.
Sounds like
But
Seattle.
still, they have passion also. Huh?
Sounds like Seattle.
See, I don't- Anyway, Prabhupada says there are no contradictions.
So then there are devotees preaching there also.
There are devotees. Yeah, Narad Muni goes everywhere, so there must be other devotees like him.
No, like Prabhupada's movement.
I do not know. But I'm sure there are some personalities who go to preach there.
Otherwise we'll do.
Text 30. Mukhato vartata brahma purusasya kurudvaha
Purushasya gurudvaha
yastun mukhatvat varnanam
yasasumukadvarnanam
mukyo bhud brahmano guru.
mukhyo bhudbrahmano guru.
O chief of the Kuru dynasty, the Vedic wisdom became manifested from the mouth of the Virat, the gigantic form. Those who are inclined to this Vedic knowledge are called Brahmanas, and they are the natural teachers and spiritual masters of all the orders of society. So what's happening now, he's talking about how the Virat Rupa manifested the Varnashram, the positions. So now the Brahmanas are first described. So you can read in the purport. about the Brahmanas and how they, what is their role, how they function, what they meant to do. Srila Prabhupada has given a very nice discussion there, so you can read that. Text 31. Bahubhyo vartata kshatram
Bahubhyo vartata kshatram
kshatriyastad anuvrattaha
kshatriyastamanavrataha
yo jatastrayate varnan
yojataskrayate varnan
paurusha kantakakshata.
pavusha kandakshatam.
Thereafter, the power of protection was generated from the arms of the gigantic Virat form, and in relation to such power, the Kshatriyas also came into existence by following the Kshatriya principle of protecting society from the disturbance of thieves and miscreants. So the Brahmanas were described, now the Kshatriyas are described. Yeah, and also Prabhupada discussed the word Purusha, why sometimes it's mentioned among living entities also. So you can read that also. I'm not going to touch that. So Kshatriyas are mentioned. Now he's going to talk about the Vaishyas. Text 33. Visho vartanta tasyorvo
Vishovartanta tasyorvo
lokavriti karir vibhu
lokavritikare vibhu
Vaishyastad udbhavo vartam
vaishyastadudbhavo vartam
Irnam ya samavartaya.
nirnam yasamvartayam.
The means of livelihood of all persons, namely production of grains and their distribution to the prajas, was generated from the thighs of the Lord's gigantic form. Mercantile men who take charge of such execution are called Vaishyas. Okay? So then Prabhupada talks about Vaishyas, the job, how they're meant to do, how the Kshatriyas protect, the Brahmanas teach, and how the Shudras serve, like that. So he's talking. Text 33. Padbyam Bhagavato Jagni
Padyam bhagavato jagni
Shushusha Dharma Siddhaye
shushrusha siddhaye
Tasyam Jata Pura Shudro
tasyam jata shudro
Yadvritya Tusyate Hari.
yadvidya tishyate harihi.
Thereafter service was manifested from the legs of the personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Situated on the legs are the Shudras who satisfy the Lord by service. So it's very clear here. Service means to satisfy the Lord, not for one's own satisfaction. So, and that applies to all the other groups also, not just the Shudras. But that is the thing here. They are situated on the legs of Shudra who satisfy the Lord by service. So their dharma is to serve all the others, and by serving others, they satisfy the Supreme Lord. Yeah, in the Varnashram system. So Prabhupada in the third paragraph says it is actually better to be a Shudra than a Brahmana and not develop the service attitude, because that attitude alone satisfies the Lord. You get it? So if you are Shudra and do a service, it's better than being a Brahmana and no service attitude, which you can see when devotees become very Brahminical or so-called advanced. They don't do service. So you can gauge yourself and see where you are at by how much service you want to do.
But I think after a few years, people will
Retire.
move from mundane services to serious mental services.
Still not serving the Lord, no?
Mundane is physically working. Mental services, thinking that they are serving the Lord by mind.
Yeah, you can
That's how
sit.
people feel.
Physical service is a service. Yeah.
No, but that's how
Must.
people feel.
It's must, otherwise whatever you're giving is theoretic.
You know what people feel.
Haridas Prabhu still he cleans the toilets.
No, he does that, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
in general, devotees initially who come, they will do a lot
Yeah,
of physical
they will do
service.
lot.
After that, they stop doing it.
That's very
Well, that means they are not advanced.
we only do the
That
service.
means they have become
No, they think they are advanced. They're not advanced.
Like look in our kitchen, right? All the new people are so enthusiastically washing dishes. After a few years, they will stop.
Okay, that I'll tell you there's two reasons. One is they get fried. because they are new. For new people, you keep pushing so much, they cannot handle it. Actually, the advanced devotees can take this kind of pressure, so they are the ones should be there. So the persons who are doing there are advanced.
It's not meant to be.
So try to understand this principle very carefully.
Fred also wanted to stop giving initiation. For this reason, because he said that after initiation they stop doing it.
So you have to figure out why this thing happens, why people drop service. Is it because they really can't do, or is it because they have become so advanced, or is it because they have no taste? And if there's no taste, then you can work back and find out what is causing that.
And then they get engaged in other services. So initially they might have Anantu, but then they spread out more. So that's not
Maybe, but at the same time, there should be some system where the people in the kitchen should do maybe, okay, they do every day, maybe they do once a week, and at least a lot of them will come and do. Not that once they leave the kitchen for higher service. Like it shouldn't be like that. It should, okay, I will come tomorrow and I'll do once a week, I commit myself. That should be there. Not like, oh, I'm doing other service, I don't have to do this. That means two things can happen. Some people really don't want to do and they're waiting for opportunity when someone says do something else. That means we haven't developed taste. Any service you do should give you taste for chanting nicely and so on. Now you can read the story of what? Janananda Prabhu, right? Jayananda Prabhu, yeah.
Driving taxi.
Till the last day.
Taxi, sweeping, cleaning, pot washing, cooking, not managing.
This is how I was attracted with Haridas Prabhu, because in 1998-99, he was coming and giving class, he was cooking, he was serving, he was doing duty dressing, everything was done there. And I didn't like the philosophy, but I just saw that this person is like so dedicated.
Yeah, that's how you become attractive to people.
There is something there.
Sadachar is more important, actually.
We used to cook the Sunday feast for everybody. So.
Yeah, he was cook, clean, bring plates, bring spoons, everything he'll do. And also donate. He was only donor with Devkinandan Prabhu. Two donors were there.
And he still does all this.
Still does all this.
So what you should be asking is why you are not doing like that. It's true. If you don't have that taste, then something is wrong. I mean, I don't know. It's up to you all. You all have to figure it out. You have to do your own heart surgery. Text 34. Ete varna swadharmena yajanti swagurum harim Shradayatma vishuddhyatam yajjata sahavritivi. All these different social divisions are born with the occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. So everything you see from the Virat Rupa, everyone is serving the Lord. Everyone is serving the Lord. That's why they went to the Lord and said, let us serve. We want to serve. So the whole thing is service. The whole process of creation is based on service. Right? The Mahasankarshan, from him come the Purusha avatars. He also wants to do service. You go back to Narayana, back to the first Chaturvyas, they expand from Balaram. Balaram expanded on his own to do service to Krishna. So the whole thing is just service. So we have to figure out why we retire early.
Choose what they want. Choose what they
At least they do. If you choose, you do. But everyone should also see, if 90% want to only, I've seen in some places, everybody wants to go Harinam, but nobody wants to stay and do any daily worship. Why? Because you go there, you can just do whatever you want. Walk around. So that's the reason. No? But when you tell them to do daily worship, cover the no, I want to go. So, okay, you want to do, fine. Take turns. Set a schedule. Okay, this week you do that. Should be like that. Should be such that everyone can do it.
So should it be spontaneous or should it be highly organized?
It should be organized so that everyone don't feel the pressure in doing service. Service also shouldn't be like you don't want to do it, right? You should feel that, I can do it, I should do it. Then the onus comes down to you. Otherwise, if you ask most people why you're not doing, they'll give you the reasons as this is too much, I've been doing so much. Which means somehow or other they couldn't take the cleansing process. So you have to, the cycle is too harsh. Maybe you have to put in gentle cycle. So then, so you reduce that kind of pressure on individuals so that they can come out of their inhibitions. Yeah, that is managing. So everyone has to cooperate and say, okay, this person has been doing. For example, you see a new person, you all say they come and do in the kitchen. But if you see them every day and you think, how so nice they're doing, I don't have to do, right? The point is, that guy may be thinking from the other side of the counter and say, when I'm going to get out from here also. Because first few times you are happy, but if none of you guys are going to help him out, then he said, this is the most hated service.
Actually, one person in our temple kitchen said that we should get initiated so that we don't have to wash pots anymore.
There you go. You see, already they are thinking, calculating.
This was like 2-3 years back.
That person is more
That statement is weighing in on my mind. What can I do?
Anyway, the point is, when you see someone new, after 1-2 weeks, you should ask them, are you happy doing this service or do you want relief? Because sometimes they come every day, new means they're like, oh, I really want to get involved. And you say, come every day to the kitchen and wash the pot. So they come first few days, then every day going 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, how they feel? Put yourself in their version. How did you feel when you first joined and what they should be? So there should be some kind of system where they don't feel the pressure so
The
much.
temple was not that big.
Yeah, but again, we should put ourselves in the position. So is it fair to them? Like,
It was an easy transition. No,
yeah. Okay.
Also, the topic of service, we may end up with like selecting one thing and just sticking to it.
That's not so bad as not even doing service. Yeah. It's not so bad. Let's say you just want to do book distribution, okay, but make sure you do it. Right? You say, I want to do book distribution, and then, okay, then I don't want to do this. Okay, how many times you go out on books? How many hours you spend? So one way to do is everyone should give 5 hours to the deities per week like that. So how much are you doing? But that becomes too restrictive also. But we are not like that. But it is a solution. Yeah. May not be the best solution, but it's a solution. But the other way is, let's say you're new and then you see this, all the senior doers coming in and working in the kitchen and washing. Many hands make light work. Right? If 10 guys there was sweeping the floor, it's done in a matter of minutes, Then one guy, grumbling and, right? And washing pot, take turns, 4 or 5 guys. Everyone feels relief. Oh, after 1 hour, another guy comes, and then everyone can go. But no, that's not how we want. If I can stay away from the service, hook by hook, then I'm okay. Text 35. Yatat bhagavato daiva karmatma rupinaha ashtadaya nupakartum yogamaya balodayam. Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So now he says, who can estimate how this thing is happening? He's given something. He didn't really go into the whole thing. And Prabhupada says all these froggish philosophers can go on speculating and they won't come to any understanding. Because this is so vast. It's not possible. Yeah,
But the thing again, Prabhupada writes about the belly bursting.
yeah. So many times in the
Second
second
canto.
paragraph, he talks about the frog again.
On second canto also he says about the belly bursting.
Many times in this canto, he says this many times. So, because people don't know and they don't accept. So Prabhupada says this story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service as suggested in the previous verse. So this is a fact. When you hear from the bona fide spiritual master, it makes a lot of sense. It's like a couple of weeks ago, Ramapa Swami came and talked on the Brahma Samhita. Many times we read, it's not easy to understand, but he just went through and a lot of things, doubts have been cleared. There are other doubts, but many of the other, at least now you know how it's happening, right? Before that, it was not possible, right? So that's why we have to listen to and take shelter of bona fide spiritual master. Very nice. We may not know everything, but at least we understand the Lord is supreme and we cannot understand him. How he does it. I'll stop here. All right. I could go on actually. Let me see how many more verses. Oh, let me finish it.
Yeah, only few verses, 4 verses, 5 verses.
4 verses.
56 to 45 verses.
What is that? 40 and 40. Text 36. Tatapi kirtayami anga
Tatapi kirtayamanga
yatamati yatasutam
yadati yadashtam
kirtim hare swam satkartum
kirtim hare samsakatum
giram anya vidasatim.
viramanya vidashim.
In spite of my inability, this is Maitreya saying, whatever I've been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I'm now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise, my power of speaking would remain unchaste. It's a very powerful statement because he doesn't want to say that he is speculating or anything, just repeating.
This Yatamati Yatashukam, something similar even Sutta Goswami says.
Yeah, I
He
can't
says
remember.
as
When I was chanting, I remember also he says that also.
As far as what I have assimilated on my realization, I will speak something about it.
Isn't that Sutta Goswami?
Sutta Goswami.
Yeah, Sutta Goswami. Yeah. So here you can see how he's saying, very nicely. And I'm describing in the glorification of the Lord by pure speech. That means he's not making up anything. And he doesn't want to deviate. He's not unchaste. He said, otherwise my power of speaking will remain unchaste. That means no potency. So same thing, if you don't go and do the service, then you cannot tell people to do the service. Then your power would be unchaste. Yeah. No, it's true. It's a fact. Maybe let's say you have been doing for 20 years and then one day they tell you don't do anymore because you're getting sick and so on. So then when new people come, they don't know you have done it and you tell them, they say you do first. Then you say, yeah, I like to do, but they told me I can't do anymore. Or you can say, yeah, I should be doing. But actually Krishna will take care of you. If you are sincere, you won't get such situation. But if it happens, then there's some lesson to learn. In the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada writes, Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. That's his humility. This glorification, Lord, is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. Sadvata, truthful, honest It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. Okay? So don't get too worked up. That you must know how the matter joined and which part of the matter made this. Don't worry. Main thing Prabhupada says, one must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental and verbal activities in the transcendent glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. That's the thing. So when a devotee chants about the Lord, there's no difference between him and the Lord, because he's chanting the Lord. Okay? Because he's sincere. Text 37. Ekantalabam vachaso nupumsam
Ekantalabam vachaso nupumsam
Susloka maule gunavadamahu
Shuslokamale gunavadamahu
Sutescha vidbadbi upakritayam Kata sudayam upasamprayogam. The highest perfectional gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the year is served just by being near them. Means you can hear from them. That's the main idea. So in the purport, in the middle of the purport, Prabhupada writes, a rishi like Maitreya is certainly not interested in discussing anything pertaining to mundane qualities. So that's why we should be near somebody who is a devotee. Yet, he says that the highest perfectional stage of transcendental realization is to discuss the Lord's activities. Remember, Maitreya Rishi is a perfect jnani, he knows knowledge, so many things. He's perfect in that sense. Srila Jiva Goswami therefore concludes that topics regarding the transcendental activities of the Lord are far beyond the transcendental realization of Kaivalya happiness. Kaivalya happiness means? Impersonalness. These transcendental activities of the Lord are so arranged in writing by the great sages that simply by hearing of those narrations, one becomes perfectly self-realized. And the proper use of the ear and the tongue is also achieved. Srimad Bhagavatam is one of such great literatures, and the highest perfection state of life is attained simply by hearing and reciting its contents. So that means even by daily reciting Bhagavatam, seriously, sincerely, you will also get liberated. Not only once a year. What? I am serious. Text 38. Atmano vasito vatsa Mahima kavinadina Samvatsara sahasranti Diya yoga vipakkaya. O my son, the original poet, Brahma, after mature meditation for 1,000 celestial years, could know only that the glories of the Supreme Soul are inconceivable. We know Brahma underwent 1,000 years, right? Meditation, celestial years. And then at the end, he realized the Lord was inconceivable. So Prabhupada says, therefore, what can the froggish philosophers hope to gain from their mental speculations?
Word purpose frog.
More than that. He just says, in the beginning he says froggish, and in the middle he says froggish, and in the end he says froggish in that purport.
3 times.
So then he quotes, it is said in the Brahma Samhita that the mental speculator may fly through the sky of speculation with the velocity of the mind. What is the verse? Pantastu koti satavatsara sampragamyo vayuratavi manaso munipangavahanam sopyasti yadapavadasimya vichintatve govindamadipurusham tamaham. So that entire sentence is that verse. Prabhupada just wrote it like that. He says the mental speculator may fly through the sky of speculation with the velocity of the mind or the wind for thousands or millions of years, and still he will find it inconceivable. Amazing, huh? The devotees, however, do not waste time in such vain searching after knowledge of the Supreme, but they submissively hear the glories of the Lord from bona fide devotees. You don't have to speculate. Just hear a devotee, finish. Everything is there. Because the devotees have the Lord's protection. The Lord, they are dear to the Lord, so the Lord protects them. And the devotees are always chanting and glorifying the Supreme Lord. So therefore, we don't have to go anywhere. Okay, text 39. Ato bhagavato maya mayinam apimohini yat swayam chatma vatmatma aveda kim mutapare. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord. So it is certainly unknown to others. So again he starts off saying the froggish philosophers and mundane wranglers in science and mathematical calculation may not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they are sometimes puzzled by the wonderful jugglery of man and nature, which is a fact, right? They go and do research and all on so many nonsense things and they're fascinated, right? They say, oh, this is amazing, and they do a 1 hour documentary on some bats or something. No, it's true. Isn't it? That's what Prabhupada is saying. They are so bewildered by that. Therefore, how can they even understand the Supreme Lord, who is beyond all these things?
They have to do research to find out animals and so.
Yeah, still they're not sure.
And then there's a big article in the newspaper to say.
So the Lord can juggle everything, and he even juggles the material nature. So what is these guys can understand? They can't understand. They are so puzzled by the whole thing. So the bottom line is we cannot actually understand the Lord unless the Lord allows us to understand him, unless he allows us to approach his devotees and service. It is true service. Bottom line.
Brahma got it for service.
Yeah, Brahma is doing service, demigods are doing service. It's only us who don't do service in the material world, right? Very few. But you see all the demigods, everyone is doing service. Okay. You can read that. He talks about how people speculate, whereas devotees don't. Text 40. Yato prapyanya vartanta
Yato prapyaya vartanta
vachascha manasa saha
vachascha manasa saha
aham chanya ime devas
aham chanya ime devas
tasmai bhagavate namaha.
tasmai bhagavate namaha.
Words, mind and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. It makes a lot of sense because you try to figure out, you go crazy. So therefore, don't, he says. just offer obeisance, and if he's pleased, he will reveal himself to you. Prabhupada writes again, the froggish calculator. Calculator.
Nobody proposes begins with froggish.
May raise the objection that if the Absolute is unknowable, even by the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra, and all the demigods headed by Brihaspati, then why should the devotees be so interested in this unknown object? The answer is that the transcendental ecstasy enjoined by the devotees in delineating the Pasa and Lord is certainly unknown to non-devotees and mental speculators. Unless one relishes transcendental joy, naturally one will come back from his speculation and concocted conclusions because he'll see them as neither factual nor enjoyable. Meaning, you have to taste. You must get the taste. How do we give them the taste?
Prasad.
Yeah, prasadam. Or you sing nicely, you chant nicely, or you speak nicely about Krishna. But don't force, don't push any. Bottom line is pressure. Then Prabhupada quotes, the devotees can at least know that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, as the Vedic hymns confirm. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Vasyanti Suraya Divya Chakshur Atatam Tat. Right?
You know the first line.
That is the verse. Vipraso Jagrivamsa. I forgot the. Yeah, but this is the beginning where those who sages can see the higher planetary system or the place where the Lord is saying. So they can guide us back to the Lord by their mercy. So then he quotes the Bhagavad Gita, also confirms it. Vedescha sarve aham eva vedaya. By culture of Vedic knowledge, one must know Lord Krishna and should not falsely speculate on the word aham or I. He is now hammering the impersonalities. The only method for understanding the supreme truth is devotional service, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam avijanati yavam yaschasmi tadvatah. So the impersonalist, you think he has to do bhakti to himself. Only by devotional service can one know that the ultimate truth is the personal Godhead and that Brahman and Paramatma are only his partial features. Right? This is confirmed in this verse by the great sage Maitreya. With devotion, he offers his sincere surrender. Namaha. So it's important, no? We won't know. He said, Tasme Bhagavate Namaha. So he's surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavate. One has to follow in the footsteps of great sages and devotees like Maitreya and Vidura, Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadev Goswami, and engage in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord if one would know his ultimate feature, which is above Brahman and Paramatma. Thus end the Bhakti and the purpose of third kind of sixth chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam, entire creation of the universal form. Samandari Vishnu Yad Paramam Padam. So this verse we chant before also we do deity worship.
So over here, the birds, mind and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of God. So can we understand that because they are not pure devotees of the Lord, they don't know the Lord fully? We have to understand.
Yeah, demigods have failed to achieve success in knowing this. Yeah. That means they are
Karma Mishra,
Sakama Bhaktas.
but not all of them, right? There could be
Not
some-
all of them, one or two. In general, most of them are Sakama. That's what the statement means.
And in the previous verse, the potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord.
Yes.
So
I've discussed this many times already. The Lord Himself is Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. That means He Himself is
Ever expanding.
the Ananda is also expanded. So He is also bewildered. Oh, why is it that they like me so much? Remember when He takes His
thumb and then put it in.
toes and then bites to see why they all worshipping my lotus feet. So it's like that.
What are they testing?
He himself feels that, how is it? That's why he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, right? He couldn't figure out what is Radha seeing more attractive about me? I want to know. So he became a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the beauty she's seeing? What is the ecstasy she's getting more than what I'm getting? So this is inconceivable.
Yeah. Again, the moment he realizes that his
He expands
glory,
further.
he expands again.
Yeah.
I'm wondering
So-
what incarnation he will take to
So
realize.
therefore the pastimes keep
It won't
going.
be
So it's eternally expanding pastime. You can't understand. That's why just do service and then go back. Do service, become attracted to Krishna and then go back. Okay, so we'll meet again tomorrow at 7:30.